descending darkness. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the weathered shingles of the Blackwood Manor. Rain lashed against the windows, a relentless drumbeat against the decaying grandeur. Inside, huddled around a sputtering fire, were 4 college students. Elena, the adventurous leader; Liam, the brooding cynic; Sarah, the timid bookworm; and Alex, the tech-savvy joker. Blackwood Manor, perched on a cliff overlooking the churning sea, had been Elena's grandmother's obsession. The old woman, consumed by stories of its dark history, had willed it to Elena on the condition she spend a week there with friends. So here they were, fueled by a morbid curiosity and a thirst for adventure. The only light came from the crackling fire, casting flickering shadows that danced across the dusty portraits of stern-faced ancestors. The air hung heavy with an unseen dampness and a faint, metallic tang that made Elena's stomach churn. "This place is creepy as hell," Liam muttered, his voice a low rumble. He poked the fire with a gnarled branch, sending a shower of sparks skittering upwards. "Relax, drama king," Alex scoffed, fiddling with his smartphone. "It's just an old house." Elena shot him a warning look. Alex, with his constant bravado, grated on her nerves. Sarah, however, shivered, her eyes wide and fearful. "Elena," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm's fury. "Are those stories about Blackwood true? About the rituals?" Elena avoided her gaze. The stories were whispered amongst the townsfolk, chilling tales of satanic sacrifices and unholy pacts made by the Blackwoods generations ago. Elena had dismissed them as sensationalized folklore, but the oppressive atmosphere of the manor was starting to chip away at her skepticism. Suddenly, a loud creak echoed through the room, followed by a deafening crash from above. Panic surged through their veins. Alex fumbled with his phone, but there was no signal. "Let's check it out," Elena said, forcing a calm she didn't feel. Liam grunted in agreement, a flicker of fear in his eyes. With hesitant steps, they climbed the creaking staircase, Sarah trailing nervously behind. The upper level was shrouded in an even deeper darkness. They found themselves in a dusty hallway lined with locked doors. As they reached the source of the crash, a partially open door revealed a disturbing sight. The room was a disused nursery, its wallpaper peeling and faded. In the crib, a porcelain doll lay shattered, its lifeless eyes staring accusingly. But it wasn't the doll that made Elena's blood run cold. It was the symbol drawn on the floor in crimson paint. A pentagram, its star point facing downwards. A wave of nausea washed over her. This wasn't folklore. This was real. Fear knotted in their stomachs as they retreated downstairs, their hearts pounding against their ribs. The storm seemed to intensify, mimicking their rising terror. Sarah began to sob, tears streaming down her face. Liam, uncharacteristically subdued, spoke. "We should get out of here, now." Elena, however, felt a morbid fascination pulling her deeper into the house's secrets. "Maybe there's a way to stop whatever lurks here," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Alex, his bravado forgotten, scoffed. "Elena, come on. We're trespassing on cursed grounds. Let's just get the hell out of here." They argued heatedly, their voices swallowed by the wind's relentless roar. As they bickered, the floor beneath Sarah's feet gave way. She screamed, a blood-curdling shriek that tore through the storm. They rushed to the gaping hole, the firelight illuminating the dark cellar below. Sarah was gone. Terror choked Elena's voice. Sarah's scream echoed in her mind, a desperate plea swallowed by the hungry darkness. Shame clawed at her. This all her fault, driven by guilt and a desperate need to find her friend. Elena grabbed a rusty lantern hanging on the wall and climbed down into the inky blackness. Liam and Alex, despite their fear, followed close behind. The cellar was a labyrinth of damp tunnels, the air thick with the stench of mildew and something far worse, a metallic tang, like blood. The flickering lantern cast grotesque shadows on the uneven walls, their shapes shifting and morphing with each gust of wind. They walked for what felt like hours, the silence broken only by the dripping of water and their ragged breaths. Claustrophobia tightened its grip on them, squeezing the air from their lungs. Then, a faint glow flickered in the distance. As they approached, the glow grew into a terrifying spectacle. A large cavern, filled with ancient, dusty tomes, opened before them. In the center stood a crude altar, carved from black, volcanic rock. Atop it lay a desiccated figure, its once human form withered and skeletal. Dried blood stained the altar and the surrounding floor, the metallic tang now overpowering. But it wasn't the macabre tableau that sent a fresh wave of terror through them. Emerging from the shadows beyond the altar, its form barely illuminated by the lantern's weak glow, was a creature far more horrifying than anything they could have conjured in their wildest nightmares. It was a humanoid figure, but stretched and contorted beyond imaginable limits. Its limbs were impossibly long, ending in sharp, glistening claws. Its head was an eyeless mass of twitching flesh, crowned with a jagged horn that shimmered with an unnatural light. A low, guttural growl resonated through the cavern, vibrating in their very bones. The creature shifted its monstrous form, its focus falling on them. Elena's mind raced. This couldn't be real. It had to be some elaborate prank, some morbid leftover from Blackwood's dark past. But the fear that clawed at her throat was a primal thing, unshakable. They were trapped. They had stumbled upon something ancient, something evil that had slumbered for centuries. Now, awakened by their intrusion, it hungered. Liam, the ever-present cynic, was the first to react. With a strangled cry, he hurled a rock at the creature. The rock struck the creature's shoulder, leaving a faint, white mark that vanished within seconds. The creature let out another growl, this time laced with fury. Panic propelled them back into the darkness of the tunnels. They ran blindly, the lantern's glow a fading beacon in the suffocating blackness. Their lungs burned, legs screamed in protest, but they couldn't stop. Behind them, the creature's heavy footfalls echoed closer, a relentless thudding that threatened to shatter their sanity. Suddenly, the tunnel ahead gave way, revealing a sheer drop that led into an abyss. Elena skidded to a halt, her heart hammering against her ribs. There was nowhere to run. Her gaze darted back, catching a glimpse of the creature emerging from the darkness, its monstrous form filling the tunnel behind them. They were cornered. Liam stumbled back, his face pale with terror. Sarah, this wouldn't be happening if they hadn't ignored her pleas. Shame and regret were a bitter pill to swallow in the face of their impending doom. Alex, surprisingly, stayed calm. He rummaged through his backpack, his hands shaking. "Found it!" he exclaimed, pulling out a small, cylindrical object, a flare gun, a relic from a past camping trip. A glimmer of hope, a desperate gamble against the overwhelming odds. As the creature lunged towards them, letting out a deafening roar, Alex aimed the flare gun and fired. The tunnel erupted in a blinding white light, momentarily halting the creature in its tracks. The intense heat singed Elena's hair, but it bought them precious seconds. Without hesitation, they plunged into the abyss, the darkness swallowing them whole. The world spun, a chaotic symphony of screams and wind rushing past their ears. They landed with bone-jarring thuds, the sound echoing endlessly in the suffocating blackness. Silence. Had they survived the fall? Where were they? Was the creature still above? Elena lay there, unable to move, pain radiating through her body. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of relief and terror. They had escaped, for now. But at what cost? A faint groan from beside her pierced the silence. Sarah. Relief flooded her veins, washing away the pain. But the joy was short-lived. Sarah's voice, weak and trembling, whispered, "Elena, it's not alone." Elena's blood ran cold. What did Sarah mean? Her gaze darted towards the opening above, the darkness above now seemingly impenetrable. But then, a faint, flickering light caught her eye. A single, glowing ember descended from the darkness. It was followed by another, and another, until a horrifying realization dawned on Elena. They weren't alone in the abyss. Hundreds of glowing embers drifted down, illuminating hundreds of glowing eyes reflecting back at them from the unseen depths of the abyss. The monstrous creature was not alone. It had brought friends. The light faded to black, leaving them in a chilling darkness, the silence broken only by their ragged breaths. They clung to each other, a huddle of fear and despair, waiting for the inevitable. The horrors of the darkness below were a fate worse than anything they could have imagined on the surface.